On today's episode, we welcome special guest Marc Jackson to put the 1994 Green Day album Dookie to the ultimate test, the nostalgia test. Welcome to paradise. Welcome to the Nostalgia Test Podcast, the show where two longtime friends put their mainstream pop culture past to the ultimate test, the Nostalgia Test.
Woo! We're here. Dan, what is up?
Manny,
guys, this is the first time you're at the Nostalgia Test Podcast. Stop right now. Follow us. Like us. Share it. Go to our Instagram page. Follow us on Instagram. That's where you're going to hear about all of our new episodes. We put up polls in there, and guess what? People wanted music.
Yeah.
They're sick of the movies. No, they're not sick of the movies, but we do music. We test all pop culture. So yeah. I'm here with Dan.
What's up here in
LA? And we have a guest today. Special
Today's
guest.
a guest day, which is good.
Guest day. You did say you wanted more guests this year. Guys, 2024. If you haven't heard about it, we're doing 90s.
Yeah.
We did 24 is the year of the 90s. And we just decided 1994. Well, how old were you, Dan? 1994.
Don't make me do math again. Everyone saw what happened on the Toy Story episode when I couldn't do simple math. So I'm going to say 14 because no.
I thought it was 12. Like 13. 12. I was 13.
Because we were 13 in 1995. I was 13.
So we were in middle
Toy
school.
Story. Yeah.
Right? Middle school, 8th grade, 7th grade. So we're here with Marc Jackson.
What's up?
Marc? Well, I'm going to shamelessly plug right now. Marc was one of the first co-founders of Lithology Brewing Company. Lithology Brewing Company. Come down for great craft beer in Farmingdale, right on Main Street, 211A Main Street. Opens Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday in the wintertime. And then we open up 7 days a week when it's spring and summer. Come down for your refreshment. Craft beer made on Long Island, made by New Yorkers, for New Yorkers, with New York ingredients. This is Marc Jackson. What's up, bro?
What's up? How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you for coming on. I know it was like last minute, but you commented on our Instagram page.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, he's coming on as a guest because I do know that you love music. We've actually gone to like a concert or two together. What was that?
Not to a few shows.
Was it Lake Street Dive?
Yeah, I used to be a supporter of WFUV. We went to one of those marquee member shows. We saw Lake Street Dive perform. That was a good one.
Those guys blew up, and Kristen loves them and like wants to go see them. I was like, I don't know if I can go see them now in like a bigger place because that theater was really cool. So it was like so intimate and stuff. Like, that was a really cool time. So tell us about yourself.
Well, that's it. Like live music is probably the top three things that I'm passionate about. I've seen countless shows. Actually, one of the reasons why I commented on that post you mentioned is because I just bought tickets to see Green Day in August.
Oh, nice.
I just found out about that. They're doing this whole album, and are they doing American Idiot or something like that?
Yeah, and somehow they're going to squeeze in new material too. So, but yeah, they're doing both of those albums in their entirety. So that was in my, I've been listening to it all like for the last week now, just like kind of get back into the groove. And then I saw your post, I'm like, hell yeah, it holds up.
It's funny.
Go ahead.
I was listening to it, and Mary, works at Lithology. Shout out to Mary. She was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get tickets. They're playing, and she was the one that told me. I'm like, they're playing 2 full albums. I was like, that's at Shea Stadium, right? Or Citi Field? Shea
Stadium.
Dating myself. This is why we have a nostalgia test podcast. Shea Stadium. Does Shea Stadium pass the test? Well, no, because it got knocked down. But
yeah. But like Green Day, especially this album was so big when it came out in '94. I mean, and then it blew up, and it's just probably at this point it made, in my opinion, it definitely made the band. I mean, I remember the Basket Case video. That was like one of those videos where I thought I saw at the time. I was like, this is the fastest drummer I've ever seen in my entire life.
Before Travis Barker.
Well, before Travis Barker, but before this other guy now that's on Instagram, I keep forgetting his name, Espirito something. Like he plays with one-handed, basically. Like he has two hands, but he plays all these unbelievable parts with one hand. Everyone check him out on Instagram. I'll put his handle in the show notes and shout out to him. He's amazing. But he was this guy, the drummer of Green Day was like the fastest drummer I'd ever seen at the time. And I was just like, I can't believe this is like real. Like I couldn't believe it. But amazing video, and it's been interesting getting back into this album.
It's funny you said about the video. I was talking to Kristen this morning about it. I was like, I think what made this album blow up was MTV, because that video was so iconic. Like I still remember the fisheye lens. They're in an insane asylum. It just, the colors like popped. It was just like a really great video. Not only is it a good song and the music was great, it's just that, that was the era of MTV. Like we all watched videos then. And then like they were on MTV. Did they get pop before Blink? I guess they were like pop punk before Blink.
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely. I mean, they
opened the door to having punk music like in the mainstream.
Well, yeah, because before that you had grunge. Grunge just had taken over, and then these are the bands like Green Day, and then I would say Green Day ushered in a lot of other bands that kind of like closed the door on grunge for a while. It's probably forever, and then nowadays it's coming back a little bit. But I would say they definitely closed the door on it because it was 1994, 1993, and then they won best alternative rock album in 1995. So definitely they had taken over at that time, and it's like ushered in a whole other sound. I mean, before since like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and everything like that.
So do you remember, either of you guys remember when you first heard the song?
I can't pinpoint when I first heard the song, but I remember like the period of time, like sitting in my friend's bedroom, just playing it on repeat over and over and over again. It was like the summer of '94, and like that's just an indelible part of my like music history as far as like what I remember.
I remember I was trying, like sometimes you like paint a different memory. It's like maybe a couple memories together. But for some reason, I remember having this album 2 times. Like one on tape. Like I had a Walkman. And I remember like the album cover is unforgettable. Like it's not, and what I love about it, I don't know if you guys have it on Apple Music or not. It moves
on Apple Music. On Apple?
Yeah. Wow. So now you have an album that is never moved before. Now that digital art is a thing, they have it moving. And I was like, oh, maybe this is what it was like meant to be. So now it's like a moving picture, right? Like the explosion is like moving and there's like planes and stuff flying by. And I also vaguely remember seeing this album on CD as well. So like, I think I bought it twice. Like, you had to, I guess, because how fast technology moved. So now I bought it 3 times because I just downloaded it. So this is the 3rd time I've had this album downloaded, right? So I remember it on the tape deck, and you had to like take it out, put it back. What was crazy is what I like about how I test albums is like how can you listen to this? Is it a shuffle album, or is it can this be listened to from 1 to the end? Like Losing Streak is my like, to me, Less Than Jake Losing Streak is my top album that is like from beginning to end, you don't shuffle it. So like I tested this, I don't know how you guys did it, was that like, could I just listen to it from beginning to end and not wanting to go to like the hits, because back in the day, what's up?
I feel like I have to listen to it like in the way it was recorded. Like that's the first time like how I was introduced to it. And then I anticipate certain songs that are going to drop after like one song ends. I'm like, oh wait, now this little drum line's coming in. So to shuffle it up would be just like throw me off altogether probably.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Yeah, and I think like going back to like getting the album, I had it on cassette only, and it was blue, and that was the thing that like it was so cool. I was just like, it was
Whoa.
the first thing that I was just like, this tape is blue. There's no other blue tape. I've never seen a blue tape before, and I was like, holy shit, this tape's blue. And I remember listening to it and like reading the lyrics, which you know, but because that's what I used to do. And then I remember listening to it all the way to the secret song, which now is not really a secret song because it streams, and so like it's just another track, which is so weird to kind of see
Yeah.
what was once a secret song not be a secret song anymore. So I was just like, that it was really odd to be like, oh shit, there was a secret song, but it is on the album, so to say, now that it's digital and it's online, which was such a weird thing to kind of hear.
I
Yeah,
feel like
you're
that's
talking
an
about.
act of music that's like people don't get to experience that anymore. That secret song, hidden back there. You fall asleep maybe listening to an album, and then all of a sudden, like bam, you get hit with like
Yeah,
next track.
I
Yeah, because
know.
that took a while to kick in, right? Like you didn't hear All by Myself like for a while. I don't remember it being the next. Like that's what sucked
No, it
about it.
was
I'm
like
like, it was a while. It was like,
yeah,
oh yeah, I agree, Mark. It's like you left it on. Like
yeah.
if you
I
left it
remember
on
like I
this
did that
long,
with Nirvana's Nevermind. I can remember the first time I'm listening to it. I'm laying down. I kind of fell asleep towards the end. Something in the Way isn't really much of a banger, and then Endless Nameless comes on, and that thing just like tears, right out of the speakers. Just scared the shit out of me. Woke me up. I was like, oh,
Yeah. Once I figured out that albums had secret songs, I would always like go, okay, how much more? Why is it continuing to go? Right. Especially on CD, you're like, wow, it's going. It's still going. And that happened, I think, on Radiohead's Kid A, that like the track just kept going at the end. I'm like, oh, there's a secret track there's a secret track in here. It has to be. And I just let it run. And then it was just like some sort of like crescendo of a note, and and then that was it. But it was still really cool to hear like these secret tracks, which like you don't really get anymore, which is kind of sad. But it's interesting, like I've been looking at some of the facts of this album, and what's interesting
Danny
about,
Fax is back.
well, yeah, I mean, well, what's
Welcome
interesting about
1990, 90s
is this
Danny
to me
Fax.
is like Green Day, this is their third studio album, and not to say that bands hit on their first album, but it's interesting to hear. I mean, they had two albums prior to this, which people really loved, but to think like that third album, it blew them up this way. It's really hard sometimes for a band to even get to that third album, right?
Do
So
you
it's
remember
really,
any of the ones before this,
no, well, that was, I don't like, and I
Mark?
guess I'm not a real fan then.
it was Kerplunk one
Yeah.
before that,
Yeah.
right? And I don't
Yeah.
know the other. It might have been like an EP or something.
I just don't
Yeah.
remember the songs.
I
No.
think a few songs made it onto this one too. Like they were really under the radar indie label. And I think Dookie has got a few tracks from those previous recordings, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
think that makes sense too, because if they're all of a sudden blowing up, it's like put those songs on here.
Yeah,
Because back then, like again, it wasn't like now. You could go to Green Day Essentials and it's like a whole
Yeah.
algorithm figures that all out. Where back
Mhm.
then it's like, oh, all of a sudden you release the single, Basket Case is out. I don't even know if that was the first single, Dan. I'm sure you have that as a fact.
no, it was Love You.
But
Yeah.
so that comes out. It's like, oh, this is doing really well. Let's add some songs to this album, like before
Yeah.
we release the whole thing. Like, why not? If they're all of a sudden catching fire, you know.
Oh yeah. That's the thing. And this album had four singles, Long View being first, Basket Case, then Welcome to Paradise, and When I Come Around. That's good for an album. And it says Welcome to Paradise was also originally appeared on the band's second album in 1991.
Whoa.
So there definitely was, that crossover but that happens too. I mean, I think that happened
Yeah.
with some Dave Matthews Band songs, also made it onto some of the other future albums that, after the first album. But it's interesting to think about like bands like second and third albums and being like, remembering like how good were those third albums or some bands, right? Like I think of like the Strokes, and the Strokes are like that first album's like their big is a huge hit, and then like the second album's like a rush to get it done. The third album, not that many people like too much. I love their third album. And so I think like it's interesting with Green Day. It's just like you have these two albums. They have a real good underground audience, and then they hit with Dookie, and then they're called sellouts for leaving like their original label to go to a bigger label. But it's just like sometimes you got to go to the bigger label, like, you know, to get the exposure. I mean, at that point,
I don't think Green Day gives a shit at this point.
No.
Whether somebody called them sellouts. I mean,
no.
Think about like I would say one of the most decorated punk bands and relevant to this day, right? Like
They
to the point where like, what is it? I know a couple albums came on after this, and then it was American Idiot or something. Right? It was American Idiot. What is it?
then they had their musical.
And the musical. There's a
like a Broadway musical.
Yeah, Broadway musical.
Like,
Green Day, Broadway musical. Green Day recently playing in the subway with Jimmy Fallon, like, you know, celebrating obviously 30 years of Dookie. And that's the other thing. Like, we're doing this because it's been 30 years, and the
30
thing
years,
that
man.
there's been 30 years since this album came out. I was wondering, you know, when you go back and you listen to this like album, I know we listened to it straight through, but I'm curious, like for people, like for you all, like which ones are the tracks that are most memorable for you? Like which are your favorite tracks? Like that you're like, this one, when I hear it, all of a sudden, like I'm there in that moment it came out.
Go ahead, Mark.
It's tough. I mean, for me, with albums, I'm a big fan of. I like that. I want to hear the opening track because that's to me like their introduction to their audience. And they come out of the gate. That song "Burnout" just like rips right into it with a little drum roll, and I feel like it doesn't stop for like the rest of the album. So it's hard for me to pick just one. Maybe I would say like "Burnout" is up there because that's like the gateway into this album, and now I'm sitting down and I'm ready. But I think Longview really just holds like a special spot. The song was amazing. It was sick. 13 years old, the song comes out. It's got that classic sound of the time with the quiet part that, then the drop into the huge, like heavy sound. And they were singing about things that was like edgy. Like this was my introduction to punk rock too. I didn't really know much punk before that. I liked grunge. I was into Nirvana. But like thematically, the things that they're singing about, like to a 13-year-old, is talking about masturbation and like being bored and stuck in your house. I'm like, what is this that I'm listening to? It's like that song it clicked. It was like right there.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about like when I was listening to the lyrics and I was like, listen, I'm like, damn, it's just like, it's so weird to kind of hear these songs because it's like especially like comparing the band now, right? Like, and how their lyrics are they're like talking about politics, and there's a revolutionary aspect to it and all these things. And then you go back to Dookie and it's just like, I'm not burning up, I'm just burning out. And it's just like, but it's still also like interesting to kind of think like in context of what was going on even in the 90s. It could, there's something being to be said there. I mean, it's like coming off the hangover of the 80s, and everyone is burned out from that anyway in the 90s at that point. But yeah,
what's the line? I've stepped in line to walk amongst the dead. Like, this is definitely so.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when I started the album and that song came on, I was immediately like caught in it. I was like, oh, I forgot about this song, but it's so recognizable immediately. Like their sound is just so recognizable. It's impossible not to know that there's a Green Day song on when it comes on. Immediately, his voice is just so recognizable. Their style is so recognizable. The 5 power chords that they use are just all recognizable. Like it's just amazing to kind of hear it because I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember this. Really well.
Just to piggyback on that, like I remember thinking when they first came out too, like, who are these British guys? Because like that first album, so much of his affect sounds, I guess he's maybe trying to draw from like the British punk, school of music there. But it took me a little while to realize, like, oh, they're from like Chicago or something or California.
Yeah, it's so weird because they definitely, you could tell he definitely was influenced by like the Sex Pistols, like 100%, because that voice is just all Sex Pistols, like that. The it's not even a whining. I don't even understand. I don't even know how to explain what he does at all. Like I really don't.
It's funny you say that because there is a point. So I'm going to admit right now, when we first test this, normally I like think first I do a whole thing where I like think about how I think I'm going to feel about the album, and I'm thinking about like I go before I even turn it on. I'm like, oh yeah, man, this is gonna be great, or like, oh, I remember this and whatever. And then I turn it on, and I'm like, wow, this is whiny. Like I was like, this is whiny. This is like every punk band. I was like, every song sounds the same. I was like totally disappointed. I was just like, I think I was thinking that it was going to be Enema of the State. Like that's what I was, because first of all, that's another album that I love.
Yeah.
And I know it's their Main Street, it's their sellout. Yes, Dude Ranch is like the, raw, raunchy produced
Cheshire
Blink
Cat.
182, Cheshire Cat, like where you have skits and like, they're just being dumb and stuff, almost like that's what you needed, right? Where Dookie doesn't have skits at all. It's
Nothing.
like so professional, right? So I was like, why does this all sound the same? And then like I kind of like let my old man get out. And then I listened to it again this morning and I was like, oh wait, this is good. Like, because it's not just his voice, like the drums are so good. The bass, you brought this up in a text, Mark. The bass is just like the bass in She, I was like, oh wow, like this band is tight. And me and Dan, you and I we went to the Madison Square Garden show where Blink 182 and Green Day played, and they were on tour together, and it was like you didn't know if you were going to hear Green Day or Blink first. And I hate Blink live. I like Blink on CD. Blink live is, I'm sorry if Blink, hey guys, if you guys want to come on the show, great. If you get a chance to listen to the Nostalgia Status podcast, that's great. I hated take off your pants and jacket, but love Enema of the State.
I love the albums they did without what's his face though too. They did 2 albums without him, and I thought they were good.
Yeah, it's like I feel like the problem is they got Travis rushing everything live, so everybody has to like catch up. Where I remember watching Green Day and going, this band they're superstars. They know how to put on a show.
Yeah.
Billy, he's a lead guy. He is going to entertain you like no other. And then the drummer's just tight. Tight. Like they could rush through this whole album, but like I never felt when I saw them live, I think I saw them live twice, and I was just like, this is a good fucking band. Like this band knows how to rock. They're tight. They just know what they need to do to give you a show. And like, I mean, like you're not watching like kids in a garage, like where I feel like sometimes at Blink you do.
Yeah, I saw them at Jones Beach with Blink, and they opened for Blink. That was just before American Idiot came out, and I was like last row, but it felt like I was like right there in the mosh pit. Green Day just brought such energy and such like you said, professionalism. It was a tight set. Never forget, it was like one of the best shows I've seen.
Wow.
What do you think of Blink?
Forgettable, like they were fine. They were, I enjoyed it, but like, I mean, and I like Blink. Yeah, I'm a fan of them. Ranch is one of my favorite albums too. But like the comparison between that, like they opened for Blink, and I was like, I'm ready. I'm good to go. Like I can go home now.
I've done that before. I've done that before. Yeah, I don't think you were there, Manny. I'm not sure. Did you come to Jones Beach just to see Travis open for Dido?
I didn't, but I heard that. Didn't also a comedian? Didn't Ben Stiller open up for them?
No. Jimmy Fallon opened.
Fallon.
We saw Jimmy Fallon open for Oasis
Thursday
or some other band, and they got booed off the stage. But like, I saw I went to Jones Beach. Dido was playing, but Travis, this other band, was opening, and I was like, and my friends and I were like, let's just go see Travis. And we saw Travis, and we left. We were the only ones leaving, and everyone's like, the concert over? We're like, yeah, you missed Travis, man. And then we just left.
Yeah.
But
You've
like,
seen Dido for that one song that she did for Eminem.
She did. She did that first, and we were just like, what else is Dido saying? And I'm sorry,
Nothing
Dido.
else.
But like,
with that?
I was just like, what?
I know she couldn't wait until the end with that. Like, you don't open with that. You want people to stay.
I'm pretty sure she opened with it because we were like, what else is going on here? But I remember going to Jones Beach and seeing Offspring, and that was really bad. I felt bad. I was just like, they couldn't hold it together. But I think like with Green Day, their songs are very they know what they're able to do, and I think that's why like this album does hold up like that, because like they understood what they were. They're like, look, we're a punk band, we have a framework for our music, and we're gonna do this. Like, we know exactly how we could play, what we're capable of, and that's what we're gonna stick to. I think it's funny to listen to this album and being like the track She is like their ballad, because there is no slow song in this whole album. It's like listening to a Slayer album where like it starts and then it's like the whole time and then it ends. So it's
like less than 45 minutes too.
It's like 38 minutes long, this whole album.
It's crazy.
And there's a lot of songs.
There's a lot of songs, and I was like, wait, it's over? Like, because again, when I do these tests, I'm like, all right, I'm going to listen to it almost a full day at work. And I'm like, I only got like part of what I normally get done. And I'm like, I have to listen to another album? Like, it's already over? Like, it's crazy. Yeah. And with the amount of songs, like, I do want to bring up Pulling Teeth.
Go ahead.
Right. You know what I got a vibe from? That Thing You Do. Remember that movie?
I remember it.
Doing that thing you do with Tom Hanks, and he kind of plays like a sleazy like producer, and like the guys have like one hit wonder. That there was like a vibe like that kind of like kitschy like song there. Like could be a commercial song. But like it's not my favorite song in there. But what were we saying, right?
Well, I was just, like you mentioned like the way it's got that like funny like lilt to it. But the subject matter, it's like kind of messed up.
It is. But but I was like, it's just all I was thinking was like, oh, okay, this is just this wacky song. Like, but I had a good time with it. I had a good time. Like that was like, but I will say Longview is probably
that's your favorite. That's your favorite. You think?
That's one of my top ones. That I think When I Come Around, only because that's like was that? No, that was the graduation song. That was the year after, right? No, there was a couple of albums after when they did that song, like not Gone to November, or there was a song that was like everyone's graduation song.
Not Wake Me When September Ends, not that one.
Maybe, yes.
Time of Your Life.
Time of Your Life. Yes. That was it. Yeah. That was our graduation song.
It was?
So like, yeah. Time
I don't remember shit about high school.
Yeah. They made a video, like, and they put it on a projector and stuff like that.
Oh my god! I was burned out during that.
I think When I Come Around is probably. I just remember the first time I ever tried to attempt to learn how to play a guitar, which was probably the only time. I was in Canada with my cousins, and I distinctly remember the cousins who did know how to play guitar. They were playing this song. So When I Come Around has a special like memory like locked into my brain of being in that basement with these kids that I only saw like once a year, and they were trying to teach me how to play guitar, and that was the song.
That song, like I that was actually the one song that I felt like I could skip.
Really?
And I don't know why, but like I think as I'm listening to it, it was and maybe this is the detriment of it, in my opinion, but like that it felt like it was on a whole other album. Like it felt like it was
that's very polished.
Right? It was very polished. It almost sounded like a Stone Temple Pilots song where I was just like, it was like, it's like, it was like a different groove. The whole thing was different. And I was like, wow. And then it goes back into like where the album what the album was after like When I Come Around is then like Coming Clean, I'm in a Sleepless in the end, like so. And actually 8 through 14 is like, if you think of it, that's like probably side B of the tape. So that's, I think, like the whole other side is like it's like a whole different like vibe on the other side of the tape.
Yeah, which is great because think about I think we brought this up in other music shows, and it always happens because music just isn't written that way anymore, right? Like this was planned to be on an album that had an A and B side.
Right.
Yeah, you wrote music for the medium that you were producing it in,
Right. So even if they were doing it on a record, there was an A and B side of a record. If you're doing it on a tape deck, same thing. Now, music just isn't written that way, right?
No.
Like, and it goes back to sorry, it goes back to I'm still going through puberty. I mean, it's 1994.
It's taking you back. It's taking you back.
It's taking me so back that I'm getting a high pitched voice. This is another reason why I love albums that I could listen to like you brought up Offspring, and Smash was one of my favorite albums to listen to from beginning to end.
Really?
It's so sad to hear that like
they weren't good live.
They weren't good live. But like the fact that even Mark said it, and it happened to me, it happens to me with Enema of the State. If I listen to a song out of order in Enema of the State, that's in Enema of the State, if it comes up on the radio or it just comes up on my like, we chose this song for you on Apple Music, I know and I sing out loud what the next song is automatically. So that's how we used to listen to albums. You don't listen. No one listens to albums they don't build albums like that anymore. You don't need to. You could just have like 4 songs and just be like, those are my 4 songs.
Well, yeah.
I feel like more artists these days just like dribble out like, here's I got a new song. Like, okay, where's the rest of the people?
Yeah. Mark, did this band influence other maybe like things that you started listening to? Like did it like usher in other bands for you or other maybe like other artists and stuff like that, like because certain bands for me, like when I was introduced to them, all of a sudden it like opened a whole other door, and like if we're coming out of grunge and then like Green Day kind of hits in this way in 94, like did it change a pathway for you or usher new artists in for you?
I don't think it did really. Like, there was a lot of like that shift in the music scene, right? Grunge came to an end, and then you had, everything else that came out afterwards. I didn't really like the ska like path that was also happening at that time. So I stuck with.
You don't like skanking? You don't like skanking, Mark?
It's all right. I mean, but yeah, I don't think Green Day was like, it didn't open any musical doors for me. It just was like one more band in that catalog. I'm like, I like this. I like the way this sounds. Maybe the Offspring a little bit, but I think it was just timing. They came out, they dropped albums at the same time, and yeah.
So were there like, did you go to like punk concerts? You didn't go to like the small punk concerts that were in.
No, that wasn't really in my wheelhouse. Like,
I
didn't have access to it. I didn't know anybody else who listened to punk, and I didn't probably even realize it was punk when I.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up here on Long Island.
Okay.
I lived in Queens for the first 10 years, but you're not really going to a lot of rock and roll shows when you're 9 or 10. So out here, they're like, I didn't have the ability really to like go to those little clubs.
Yeah, and I feel like
it was weird because
I was just gonna say the music scene on Long Island, like I feel like blew up around like emo, like Taking Back Sunday and stuff like that. Like, and in Long Island, like I feel like birthed like 100,000 of those bands. So
yeah, no, I was about to say that, like, especially being in Mineola, we had like, was it Deja?
Yeah, I never went there,
was
but
like,
yeah.
Deja was like where, I mean, I know people who tell a story of like seeing Less Than Jake there.
Yeah.
Like little like bands that we ended up listening to like all the time that started out at all these places. I know people that were coming from out east to go to Deja One.
Yeah. I remember.
And they would go to like, and maybe I think I would say Green Day had a lot to do with like bands being more popular to go see around here because of it. And I think I definitely got into more of the punk scene because of it. I mean, I was hanging out with more people that were listening to them. So I was like, all right. So like, this is what we're listening to. And I was a skier, snowboarder. So videos back then, skating videos, they had punk in it. So you became kind of in it. And then like playing, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Pennywise, all those guys got shot from that. Yeah. So
I remember going to the Warped Tour in '98 and seeing like Millencolin and Blink-182, Suicidal Tendencies, and Eminem getting booed off the stage, and a whole bunch of crazy people that were there. Do you remember a band called Reggie and the Full Effect?
No.
Oh God, it's so weird. But I feel like Green Day, like it definitely opened the door to a lot of other bands, and I feel like you don't get Blink-182 without Green Day. You don't get MXPX really without Green Day. I feel like MXPX, especially like their interestingly enough, their most recent album, which I'm obsessed with for some, like I love it. I feel like they're to me the closest. Like I love the longevity of like a band like MXPX. All the members of the band are there. You have like, still making albums. They still have a very like loyal following. 311, same thing.
They just never. 311. I just recently saw some like Instagram posts like that they're still performing. I'm like, holy shit,
dude!
Like,
they come to the Patchogue Music Festival every other year.
311.
Yeah.
Dude, I heard they're
doing that
sick
drum line solo that they did.
Dude, I heard they're sick in concert. Like I heard
saw
they're
them
insane
3 times in what the hell is it called? Shit. It was a theater up in the city. It was a really cool theater. Yeah, I think it was Hammerstein. And they did that drum solo that they do with all of them play the bass drum. It was crazy. They definitely put on that band puts on a fantastic show.
They just came out with their own non-alcoholic IPA.
Of course they did. I can't be mad at that. I can't knock the hustle on that one. That's like taking over right now.
No. But Dookie, I just want to also say, like, does anyone know here why they called it Dookie? Because I have the facts, and I'm just curious, does anyone know? And like, do you like that name for the album?
I think it's a great name for an album. It catches your, like, it just stands out as something else. And then the album cover art with that too, like all that stuff going on there. But I can't say I know where it comes from.
Manny?
Do I like? I mean, it's catchy. I mean, what else would you call this thing? I mean, it's definitely for a 13-year-old. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
So like, what the thing is back then? Who were they playing to?
What
did like? To me, it was like, who were they trying to get? Were they trying to get
target audience?
18-year-olds? They were trying to get that demographic. Not that they were trying to get like 13-year-olds to listen to them, but probably in that age group, right?
I feel like 13, 14-year-old kids like that were just reckless or just bored and just
or just like going through different stages of life, not sure what to do. Getting yelled at by mom and dad. Maybe
17 and run out on confusion.
Yeah.
So okay. So the album name, according to Wikipedia, Dookie is it is a reference to the band members often suffering from diarrhea, which they refer to as liquid dookie, as a result of eating spoiled food while on tour. Initially the band was to name the album Liquid Dookie, but this was shortened to Dookie. Okay. Wow. Asked in 2014 if the naming choice was a mistake in hindsight, Armstrong described the idea to give the album the title as an impulsive stoner thing. We were smoking a lot of weed, and hey man, wouldn't it be funny if? And then the band submitted the title to the artist Richie Butcher, who created cartoon-like work, and so on. And then the band, boom, the album's called Dookie. So,
By the way, you froze up, but I don't think it matters because you're recording or whatever.
That's fine.
But that's crazy.
Yeah. So there it is. So obviously,
whatever you just said was awesome.
Oh no, they ate spoiled food. Did you hear that part? They like because
No,
they were
we
eating. Okay,
didn't.
so they were suffering diarrhea because they were like eating spoiled food on tour, and then
Ugh,
they were gonna call it Liquid Dookie, but then they shortened it to Dookie.
nice.
And because they were like smoking weed, and they thought like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if the album was called whatever? And then that's what the album's called.
Of course that would happen because they were
So
still like to see that's what's so funny because the album's so well produced
it
and
is.
then they just do something like childish like that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Well, some
it's just
tracks
funny.
sound louder than others. Did you notice that? Like When I Come Around sounds louder than another song. Basket Case sounds louder than this other song. There's like a weird skip in like this weird area where it's like I feel like going into Longview, I think it is, or right before Longview from the song before Longview, and then it's like a doo-doo, doo-doo, and then it's like it stops and then it continues that bass line, and I'm just like, it's such this weird mixing issue, but they kept, no matter what, they
Like,
just
no
kept
one
that
told the
in.
producer like this is the same song. It's going into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny because when I heard that, I was like, oh, I remember that. I'm like, oh my God, I remember that on the tape. And I thought they would fix it in the album, in the digital, but I guess not. I mean, they're like, fuck it, just leave it. It's Dookie.
Can I?
Yeah.
There's one thing I wanted to bring up. Before we were talking about how like MTV probably ushered in, like brought them to their fame, all the music videos that were coming out. But I think I think a lot needs to be like could be said for their performance at Woodstock, because that I think was the other thing that like kind of solidified it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go to Woodstock so bad, but I, 13, I really didn't have the means to get up there. But I could watch that. They streamed it, live on MTV. I think it was right.
Yeah.
Like seeing that
94.
performance.
Yeah, 1994.
It wasn't pay per view, right? Was it MTV probably? But
They
No, I think
probably,
they
their
just like
performance-
streamed it. It was
Yeah.
just something that,
Yeah.
It was pay-per-view in 99, I believe. That's when they got greedy.
Oh, okay.
That was when
right,
Yeah.
the money grab.
things
Yeah.
got really
Like the
bad.
mud fight breaking out between the audience and
Yeah.
Green Day, like just it devolved into utter chaos. The taunting back and forth, like that also I think helped solidify them as like, oh, this is who they are. You get to see these three punks up on stage, just having fun and going at it and playing some rock and roll or punk
Wow.
rock. But
yeah, that was really
That's
cool.
a
I
great
remember
memory because I remember that now. Yeah. I saw the 1999 documentary on HBO of Woodstock, which is not a good Woodstock to
The
look
99,
back
no,
at.
the 99 Woodstock was terrifying.
But like they brought up how like great 94 was.
Yeah.
Like even though the mud thing had, everybody was all into like the fact that it rained, they didn't care. Like it was
it was like all in good fun at that point.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. 99 was crazy. It was like
Wow.
Lord of the Flies shit.
Yeah, they
Yes.
played a lot of good songs too. They played like most of the Dookie album and then a few other songs from like older albums. That's amazing. Yeah, but that's the thing about Woodstock 94. Like you had bands that were like Green Day that were like fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like that's why I think like this album, it's fun. Woodstock 99, there was nothing fun about
Well, there was a
like,
lot of angry. The whole point of the documentary was even just how like the music that was out then, just like anger and break this down and break that and
Yeah.
fuck everybody, and Fred Durst definitely lit a match basically, and
Yeah.
just kept going with it. And then what's his name? Red Hot Chili Peppers was not stopping, and kind of. If you haven't seen the documentary, it's
Oh, yeah,
crazy.
it's a good one. It's wild.
wow.
Wow.
1994 though had some killer albums that came out. I mean, so this album came out with so many great albums. You have Super Unknown from Soundgarden. So you still have like that the grunge era still there. You have Definitely Maybe by Oasis, which I love. The Grace album by Jeff Buckley, which was really great. Vitology by Pearl Jam. The Downward Spiral from Nine Inch Nails. Live Through This by Hole. I mean, it was a Jar of Flies by Alice in Chains. This was actually a strong year for music. I mean, even on the hip hop side, you have Illmatic from Nas comes out in 94. Far Beyond Driven by Pantera. The Southern Playalistic I can't even say it, by Outkast. Outkast's album comes out in 94. Crazy Sexy Cool by TLC. I mean, look, just basically 1994 was an unbelievable year, plus Weezer, the Blue Album, was an amazing year for music. So it just, to see Green Day kind of come out with an album to like last all this time, but a lot of those albums, when you think about it, like I'm like, I still listen to Definitely Maybe. Like I still listen to that Oasis album.
You know, as you talking about this, I was thinking about No Doubt. Remember No Doubt? Weren't they really punk at first?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah,
Right?
and
They were like
ish too, right? They had like the horns going.
Yeah, they changed so many. I just remember with No Doubt, it was like they changed every album they came out with was like a new genre for them. Like,
Well,
because as
yeah.
the different albums came out, it was like all of a sudden they were like, there's a little bit of rap in there. They turned into like really poppy,
Yeah.
and then they broke up. But like, I remember they start out, they were a punk band.
She was on. She did a song with Bradley Noel, from Sublime.
Seeing Red, or I see.
Yes. It was amazing. So she was in that scene.
And
I mean,
she
they
was
were
a great
part of it.
performer, man.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Any like we're coming up on like some time to like we're gonna play something for you all from one of our podcasts. Brothers in podcasting, Brian Colburn, who, Manny, can you believe that he was on our podcast like in 2021?
That was already that long ago.
Yeah.
The one when we did like the
Joel
playlist, Billy Joel's playlist.
Yeah. But
Crazy.
let me play, everyone. Let me just play what Brian Colburn had to say about the Green Day album Dookie. We asked him to chime in, and if you haven't checked out Brian Colburn's podcast, My Weekly Mixtape, check it out. It's blowing up. He's got guests on there from like all sorts of amazing bands.
Dan talks about it all the time.
I love it.
He's like, I wish we had those guests. Let's go.
He's killing it, Brian. We got have us on. But yeah, and check him out. Here's what Brian had to say about the Green Day album.
Gentlemen, Brian from My Weekly Mixtape here. Wanted to chime in on your question. Does Green Day's Dookie pass the nostalgia test? This one, I hope you both say a resounding yes to, because let's be honest, Green Day is going out on a tour this summer, a stadium tour with openers, the Smashing Pumpkins, Rancid, and the Linda Lindas. And they are touring, playing 2 albums in their entirety. American Idiot, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary, and Dookie, celebrating its 30th anniversary. So right there, stadiums are selling out across the country to hear Dookie played in its entirety. So right there alone is a good argument for why this album passes the nostalgia test. Now let's talk about the hits. Obviously, Longview, Basket Case, She, When I Come Around, all amazing songs. Welcome to Paradise, originally recorded for the Kerplunk album, is heard here in its absolute glory, the definitive version of Welcome to Paradise. This is a band that's energized. Yes, I get it. This is their major label debut. So fans of 39 Smooth and Kerplunk, the Lookout label days, might not be a fan of Dookie, but Dookie introduced Green Day to fans all over the world. It made pop punk a thing. Like, this is the album that truly ushered in pop punk in the 90s into the early 2000s. And by ushered in, I don't mean all of pop punk. Pop punk is alive and well in the 90s, especially on an indie level. But Green Day's Dookie took pop punk into the mainstream, and that's the difference here. Burnout, Having a Blast, Chump, like every single song on this album is great. But the best tracks are the ones I actually think are outside the singles. Pulling Teeth is an amazing tune that shows where their musical sensibility lies later on in their career. You talk about songs like Sassafras Roots and Coming Clean, In the End, and then FOD, what a great album closer. But the fact is, if you own the CD, you know FOD is not actually the album closer. It's the brilliant Trey Cool and All By Myself, one of the premier hidden CD tracks of all time. So there you have it. Green Day's Dookie passes the nostalgia test with ease. Hope you gentlemen are doing well. Looking forward to having you guys on my weekly mixtape at some point in 2024. But until then, keep up the great work and looking forward to talking to you soon.
Wow. Thank you so much, Brian.
Man.
If you haven't checked out again, like check out my weekly mixtape. Go to the website, myweeklymixtape.com. Follow on Instagram and Twitter and everywhere that you follow at My Weekly Mixtape. Brian's dropping episodes pretty much weekly. Obviously, the last episode was he was joined by Desmond Child, and they were diving into the stories behind songs that Desmond Child wrote and co-wrote with Kiss, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, Alice Cooper, Joan Jett, and the Blackhearts, Cher, Meatloaf. I mean, talk all about that. I mean, Brian is he's like an encyclopedia of music. I mean,
I know, man.
check out our episode with Brian that we did in 2021, episode 53 of the Billy Joel playlist, which is much more of a Billy Joel just like love letter.
Shameless plug. But I gotta say, he's got a huge point that they are still selling out stadiums. Like,
yeah.
It's hard to do, especially nowadays. Everybody's so like, they just move on really quickly, and people still hanging on to Green Day. And I didn't know that Smashing Pumpkins, that was my first ever big concert.
Yeah.
Smashing Pumpkins. Yeah, man. I think I was like maybe 15 at the time or 14. I don't know. But I went to Madison Square Garden, and I think I got high at that concert too. No, I definitely got high. I didn't think I definitely got high.
That was your first major concert?
Yeah, like first like big arena concert.
Mm. Mark, what was your first concert?
My first big concert that I remember, it was Lollapalooza 95.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
really
pretty, set the bar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Shit.
I think Hole played. They were the Sonic Youth, Hole. Soundgarden. I think Soundgarden was there. It was wild. It was great.
I still haven't recovered from Chris Cornell dying. I'm every day I'm like, why did this happen? But amazing voice. Rest in peace. That's an amazing first concert. My first was 311 at Jones Beach for the Blue album, which was really interesting, really amazing. And I was a freshman in high school. That was like my first major concert. Before that, it was Ninja Turtles live, which was amazing.
Yeah, buddy. Let's go.
It was Splinter Cell, Stepping Stones.
I guess my real first concert. I take that back. Arena, like I guess my first concert was because I'm a twin, and my twin is a female. We went to New Kids on the Block in Nassau Coliseum.
Dude, that sounds amazing.
First ever, and I gotta say, rocked out. They were good. They
were good at the time.
But on the live music.
Exactly. I've seen Hanson. I've seen Hanson live.
Bob.
You know. Yeah. Our friend Brian.
I saw Alanis.
You saw who?
Alanis Morissette.
Oh,
nice.
That I would love to see
in her prime. That's a good time.
Yeah. In fact, the one that got away, Radiohead opened for her. And I didn't go I just was going with my friends, and I'm in the parking lot. I'm like, this song sounds familiar. I know this song. I fucking missed it.
Wow.
Oh my God.
What an interesting opener.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Dude, first of all, when Brian said Smashing Pumpkins were opening for Blink-182 for Green Day, I've seen the Smashing Pumpkins some years ago. Not good.
Not good.
No, it was sad because like they were such a good band, but like most of the band isn't around with them anymore, and it was just everything was like all the music was angry, like every song that was a hit he just played angry. But yeah, wow.
Interviews with him, he's angry.
Yeah, but Green Day's Dookie, I'm This is one where, like, at first when I was listening to it, I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but it's interesting. This happens to you a lot, Manny, where like we have conversations, and then all of a sudden, like that little turn happens,
Yeah,
and then it's just like, huh.
it
So like
definitely happened. And I gotta give it to Mark.
that
That
is,
text, what
yeah,
the Instagram text of you saying no, it still slaps. I was like, all right, let me give this a second listen, because like I was gonna review this on just one listen,
yeah,
and yeah,
absolutely.
so you experienced it, Dan, the turnaround. When did you
I mean, right
come
now I'm
around?
about
When I come around,
when I'm
like,
coming around. It's when I come around, I'm saying that the Dookie passes the nostalgia test. It's a classic album. It's a really great album. It's fun. It takes me back to 1994, but at the same time, I mean, most of these songs I'm 100% listening to like over again. I would definitely listen to it again and again. It's just like, especially, you know, Mark, and you're right. That opening track is so important, and this one is so good. Burnout is an extreme. I started singing it as soon as it came on. I was like, wow, I remember all these words. I was just I was
crazy
really great.
that happens. Like lyrics are locked in your brain that you haven't.
Locked.
Like, when was the last time you heard Burnout?
It's been a long time.
Right, and then
Probably
all of a
since
sudden, it's just like
1997.
it just like clicks right in.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you had no idea that was still in your brain,
No,
like locked away, just
not at all.
collecting dust.
Yeah.
And
I was
then all of a
standing
sudden,
there.
it's like, oh no, I know it.
Yeah.
I know the song.
I was standing at work at the USC campus, just like listening to Green Day, being like, this is weird, but like, okay. And like, I
Yeah,
was just like singing to myself, like Burnout, while I was like waiting for like walking to class. And I was like, okay, all right, this is a good start. This is a good start, you know.
yeah.
But I needed multiple listens because I feel like there's an expectation again, like, and I think Mark, you're right. Like when you said like people like the way these albums were made was like to have two sides, so to have two different like feelings, and I was like not ready for that because it's like you have to translate, you have to just basically like put it onto digital, and you don't get that feeling of like turning the tape to like go, okay, this is the second side, so it's like a whole other space. It just, it's so because that 8 to 14, it's like it's like a up and then a down, but then a up again a little bit, you know. And so like yeah, it's definitely needs a second to third listen.
That's funny you said. I was thinking the act of doing that. So you're saying the act of taking out the tape deck, taking a break,
Yeah,
switching it.
yeah,
Is like they need to put an intermission in between the digital the digital copy, because
I was talking about this with my friends. I think one of my buddies said that I think it was a Tom Petty album. He did that like on the CD. He's like, all right, well, this is the point in the album where anybody who's listening on tape or vinyl has to flip it over. So let's just give them a minute. All right, let's go. And then like,
oh wow.
I love that. I mean, that to be like aware of that is huge.
Yeah.
And I'm like wondering if like new artists even, there's no way if they even know.
But that's what the role of the skit was too, or the sketch on the album, right? Like I miss that. Like you had that on.
I don't know.
I do.
Feel like
I loved it. The Locks did it on like you know, their albums on We Are the Streets and Money,
Fugees
Power,
did
Respect. The
Fugees had yeah.
Smacking
Eminem
Isaiah.
had
Smacking
What'd you
Isaiah
say, Mark?
did it.
Queens of the Stone Age, they got an album that they frame it like it's on the radio, and so that these little skits in between with like the DJ.
Yeah, they did it.
Yeah.
Less Than Jake does it. They have like little like weird intros here and there.
It's Harry J. Reynolds, and you're listening to Less Than Jake.
Yeah, and then they did that other thing where they have, you know, in Blink-182 did it, and I feel like it gives like a whole other feel to the album. You don't get that anymore.
The whole time I've been this whole podcast, I have the Dude Ranch scream of the girl screaming about seeing it. I don't know, I guess it's herpes or something. She's like, ah.
Oh, Benoit balls.
Yeah. That's all I'm thinking in my head while we're going through this, of like
That's
that
weird.
skit. Like that skit was like it was loud. All of a sudden, it came out of nowhere, and then like they go into another song. You're like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
It was like, what for?
But that's why also like in that Smacking Isaiah like album, you have like even the clip from The Big Lebowski, which is hilarious.
Yes, and the clip from the when he's talking about like it's what's his name? Not the more cowbell guy. Shit. Suicide King, not Suicide Kings.
Christopher Walken? What are you talking
Yeah, Christopher Walken's in it. Yeah, there's a skit of him talking about like he's about to kill someone. He's like a mobster in that. Was it Suicide King?
In True Romance? Maybe it's from True Romance.
I think it's from True Romance. That skit's in there too. Mark,
Well,
you
yeah.
don't know Smacking Isaiah, right? No,
And
you said you weren't really into like different. Yeah,
And in this
crazy album.
this heavy metal album by this band called Bleeding Through, they used that part of the Boondock Saints when Willem Dafoe was like going, "There was a firefight," and then like all of a sudden it's like, and when I listened to it for the first time, I was like, "Whoa, wait a second, that was the Boondock Saints." Like, so bands, I feel like I don't know, I like that. It was something that I missed, but anything funny, I love. But yeah, I'm saying it passes the nostalgia test. Manny, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm saying it does it all. It brings me back. We didn't even we talked about Basket Case for a second, but there's no way, there's no way I'm not belting Basket Case when it comes on. Like wherever I am, like it just I'm singing it the way he sung it in the video.
Mhm.
I'm remembering the fisheye lens. Like it's a great memory, and it's a great song. It's still a great album. Every time Green Day comes on, I never go like, oh God, it's Green Day. Like even Blink, and I like Blink, and I was saying Enema State, but there's times where I'm just like, yeah,
I'm not ready for this.
I need to have this on. But like Green Day, I'm not skipping the song.
That's how I feel about Weezer. When I hear it, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Me too lately. Like I'm like, yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just like, I got it. Buddy Holly was whatever. I'm done with this. Like, I get it.
In the Garage, you like that song? I'll let that one play out. It doesn't get.
Yeah, that and like songs from Pinkerton, I'll listen to some of those, but like not really listening to the whole Blue album. Being like, yes, like the Sweater song, I'll listen to maybe, but like, I don't know. One day we'll probably have to listen to it, Manny.
I don't really like Weezer, and a lot of people like to tell me I look like him because I'm like, is it because of my glasses? Like that's the only reason why.
I wear glasses does not make you Rivers Cuomo.
Like, did anyone ever tell you look like Rivers Cuomo? I'm like, yes, like maybe 20 at this point, and I'm just like, it's because of the glasses. If I took them off, you wouldn't say that at all.
They'd be like, whoa, who are you?
But like, Mark, we know what you're gonna say, so just say it. Does it pass?
I would pass. Flying colors.
Just say it.
To the point where it passes now, like after having this conversation and just thinking about it, I'm like, maybe I should buy tickets to this show. Like, when's the next time? This could be the last time I can see them live. They might break up, or they just might just call it quits. Like, or just seeing like being able to see him still perform at his prime. Like, I'm not saying he's at his prime, but I'm sure they're going to put on a fantastic show.
Yeah.
So what does it cost? What did it cost? $90?
No, more than that.
More than that.
Dude, it's going to be way more than that.
Like above 50.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah.
For a good seat?
I'm in like section 3 something. I think that's just what the tickets are going for. Right now, I think, yeah. If you want to get in the mosh pit, it's like $500 though. So that's not.
That's crazy.
I mean, there you go. I mean, the whole band passes in the nostalgia test to be selling a ticket for that much.
I mean, you could see Iron Maiden for like an eighth of that price and be in general admission. It's unbelievable.
Crazy.
That's crazy to me. But like,
No one's going to see Smashing Pumpkins for that price. They're going to see Green Day.
No.
And it was when I read that they were doing Dookie and American Idiot in their entirety, that was kind of the cincher for me. Like, I want to see that one more time.
Yeah, and now, in the beginning we were saying how they're going to do that. Well, it's a 34-minute album.
Exactly.
So, they could do it because it's a 34-minute album. They're not going to take a break. They just go right through.
We're going to do Dookie twice, and then...
We want to play that song again. Why not? Just go for it. Who cares? It doesn't matter. But I remember I saw, and then I have this Billy Joe Armstrong story. It's really I used to go to a lot of shows in Manhattan. I was hanging out with my friend Matt Airy. We all, shout out to wherever he is. Anyway, he loved this guy, Jesse Malin. And Jesse Malin was a lead singer to a band called Degeneration, punk band in New York. But then Jesse Malin went on his own. He had these solo albums. They're actually pretty good, singer-songwriter type rock albums. And he was playing the Bowery Bowery Ballroom, which is literally a bar in a basement. If you've ever been there, and just in our audience, it's a bar, and then you go upstairs, and it's I don't even know what to call it. It's a stage, but there's room for maybe 95 people or whatever it is. It's super small. I've seen The Darkness there, which was crazy to see The Darkness in this album, in this place. Yeah, it was out of hand. But I remember seeing Jesse Malin there, and then all of a sudden, this guy walks on stage to sing with him, and I'm like, motherfucker, that's Billy Joe Armstrong. That is the lead singer to Green Day. He just started singing. They sang a Degeneration song, and I was blown away. I was like, holy shit. I was like, to think that how famous he really is, you don't really think about it until you see him, and you're just like, this guy's super fucking famous. Green Day is a huge band, and he's playing to 95 people, and it was really amazing. So that was really cool. I remember that. I'll never forget.
I love those kind of stories where, because look, someone's got to pay $500 to get that close, and you were in a 95 person. Probably paid $25 to see Jesse Malin.
I paid more for drinks.
Yeah, exactly.
For the ticket. You kidding me? Oh my god! And then we got locked out of this guy's apartment, and it was a whole disaster. But yeah, that was really cool. But awesome, Mark. Before we close out, I remember emailing you. I was like, remember to bring your Rocky ranking, and we need to know how you rank the Rockies from best Rocky, and that includes Rocky Balboa, not the Creed films, just Rocky and Rocky Balboa, all the Rockies and Rocky Balboa. Best to worst Rocky.
Okay. And what's the Rocky to Rambo conversion rates? I've seen a few of those and a few of these.
So, Mark, are you even a Rocky fan? I'm assuming no.
Yeah. Who's not going to root for Rocky? Of course you got to be a Rocky fan.
Yeah.
But have you watched all of them?
No.
Your boy Kevin.
Okay, so you haven't seen which one have you
huge Rocky
seen?
fan.
I think the only reason I've seen any of them was because Kevin made me watch them, and I liked them. It wasn't like he had to hold me there, but he's like, "You need to see this movie." So
yeah.
So you ready? Do I just say the ranking? All right,
just go. Let's numbers.
Go.
All right. First is the first one, 1, then 6, then 2, 3, 5, 4.
You put 4 at the end?
Yeah, that's the one, right? Isn't there?
That's the Russian one, the
Manny.
80s one.
Manny.
Do you know why I get it though? You know why I get it? I know I've had conversations with Mark, and he's not really into that kind of movie.
162.
Yeah, 162 is its first. That's a first for us. Our ranking here, a 162er. He's a 162er.
Wow,
crazy.
I remember seeing Balboa and I like this. This is reminds me of the first one, which was so good.
And I'm not arguing that the sixth one wasn't good.
Wait, you put 5 before 4?
Yeah. I wrote it down, Manny. It's 162
5,
3, 5, 4,
which is considered the worst one ever before 4.
I mean, I haven't seen them all, so I was kind of basing it off of
Okay, you haven't seen them all.
Okay, which ones haven't you seen?
Which haven't you seen? Please tell us.
I've seen Rocky 1 and Rocky 6.
Okay. Oh, you've never seen the other one?
No.
Where'd you put 3? Where'd you put 3?
I put it in a number 4 spot.
Even after 2.
All right, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you out.
Wait, man, that was the greatest moment when he's like, I've seen Rocky 1 and Rocky 6. And then we were both waiting. We were both standing there like this, like, and then that was it.
Dan, he texted me. He goes like, what about if I haven't really seen it? I was like, please let's just talk about this during the thing because it's going to be great. So I'm going to help you out on this, Mark. I'm going to be more help you out.
Help him out,
I say
man.
it's a 1, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5 because you can't, you won't be able to. People will be attacking you. The 5 listeners that we have will be attacking you for putting 4 before 5.
Mark,
like, 4 should never become 5.
You have to watch Rocky 5 now just to know how bad it is. And you have to watch the whole thing because Stallone himself has given it a 0.
Yeah. And Rocky 4 is like an 80s heaven.
It made like
$80s
$300 million.
Heaven.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Rocky 4 is like one of my favorites.
Off of just
how
seeing
80s it is.
I figured the further away. Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead, Mark. Go.
I was just gonna say I figured the further away you got from the first one, they kind of like
I love that your rationale was like this. Rocky 6 kind of reminded me like of Rocky 1. I'm like, but you only watched Rocky 1.
Yeah, that's why it really like ring a bell for me.
Oh my God.
I was kind of okay with it. I was like 1, 6, 2. All right, not bad. 3 and 4, you kind of like, depending if you like 80s movies or you like 3 was good. I mean, I put 3. I think I've made
yours,
3, like,
Manny, was 4, 4, 1, 3.
4, 1, 3.
I think, and mine was 1, 4, 3.
I changed it at one point, but yes, yeah.
And then I did 1, 4, 3, 6, 2, 5. That was mine.
Well, we had to save Mark, and you know.
This is all staying in the podcast, but I mean, like,
yeah,
that was the greatest moment, though. It was like,
I love it
because everything but that last.
Can we talk about Rambo instead?
Well, when we do Rambo, Mark, you'll come back on and do Rambo then.
All right,
especially those last 2, which were insane.
Oof. Yeah,
those are the craziest movies I've ever seen. Well, there we go, everyone. Green Day passes the nostalgia test. It's unanimous. 1994 classic. 30 years. Congratulations, Green Day, for 30 years of Dookie. That sounds really weird, but also just more than 30 years of just making music, having a Broadway musical, doing everything that like I cannot believe a punk band has done in the music industry. And I mean, hopefully maybe 20 more years. More music. Why not? Let's break out those power chords. That's how I learned 7, 9, 7, 6. Let's get those chords out there. Like make some more songs. Mark, thank you so much for being on and coming on and talking Green Day with us. It was like a real pleasure.
Thank you for the amazing ranking. I appreciate it.
One of the greatest Rocky rankings of all time.
Buzz in the tower would be proud. Guys, don't forget to follow us on all your social media platforms. That I think we're on Twitter, now known as X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Dan's doing a great job. We got a whole new look on there. And, catch us on anywhere you get your podcasts.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us what we should put to the test next.
Yeah. And everyone
on the Nostalgia Test podcast.
90s all the way. Peace.
Later.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please subscribe to the Nostalgia Test podcast to know when new episodes drop. Don't forget to leave us 5 stars and a positive review so more people can find the podcast. Share your thoughts and memories on today's topic on our Twitter @NostalgiaTest and on Instagram @TheNostalgiaTest. Tune in next time because you never know what pop culture will pop up on The Nostalgia Test.